Hi, everybody. So, I want to start adding a few informational pieces to my YouTube channel. For those of you who are working in the therapy profession or the coaching profession or the healthcare profession, but also for those of you who are my clients who I think it's helpful to try to offer you um, a forum, perhaps, for how you can respond to the kind of service that I'm bringing to you. And this might actually help you outside of session so that you have a richer, fuller experience of achieving the things that you want to achieve. I had two really interesting experiences yesterday. One was a healthcare appointment for me, and the other was a meeting with colleagues and art therapy and social work practitioners. The first appointment was so interesting because the healthcare provider asked me how I was arriving today and explained that if he could hear just a few words about how I was arriving to my appointment, that it would help him to fine tune the healthcare provision that he was going to give me in my appointment that day, because he had a little bit more insight about what I was bringing, what I was carrying, because we cannot know, what people are carrying. Even if we're really good at what we do, very intuitive and attuned and congruent to the people that we're working with and for. And it gave me a chance to pause and think about what kind of energy am I bringing with me right now after a busy morning. And a rather hectic commute to get to the appointment, which seems to be the way of things these days. And I really appreciated being able to drop into that space and check in with myself. And that I really appreciated. I try to do that when I start my sessions, but sometimes it becomes a little bit of a rote question, and it was just a real reminder for me to not let it degenerate into that. Conversely, later in the day, I had a meeting with colleagues, and I understand the constraints of trying to get an agenda items covered in a really constricted amount of time at the end of a busy work day. So I totally understand those parameters. And yet, it was an interesting study for me in seeing the difference in the space. Because as attuned and congruent practitioners with each other, we did no connecting at the front end of our time to check in with how we were each arriving. And so there are biases and assumptions that come with the way that we show up to the work as practitioners, even into a meeting. And I saw that and observed that coloring the meeting because we skipped just a few short minutes at the front end to check in with how we were arriving. And sometimes it takes about 10 minutes when there are more people in the meeting. And so, but I find that there's real value in being able to actually ground into that. And it was so interesting to me because we had a somatic grounding practitioner in that meeting. We had a social worker with a PhD in certain approaches to therapy, and lots of big players in the room, so to speak. And then myself, bringing my unique version, and yet the energy was not addressed. And it was so interesting because what happened in that meeting was an attempt to collaborate on a solution for something, but we bypassed the moment where we could check in with where we were each at, hear that from one another, reduce some of the strain around the topics for discussion, and not have preconceived biases and preconceived ways of coming. Because even the best, including somatic practices and awareness, because we've got all of this training, cause a certain kind of blindness that can contribute to bypassing what is actually arriving in the space. And as a result, I think some of the alternatives that I had for the solution weren't even explored because there was no room for any other alternate perspectives or conversation. It was simply, we've got to get this done. This is how we're going to do it. We've done the grounding practice to kind of calm everybody at the beginning of the meeting, but even that may have been an inadvertent, truly inadvertent form of controlling the space. And I think we need to really look at these things, that even when we use the approaches that we're really familiar with and this desire to be joyful and grounded and informed and informative, that sometimes that shuts out some of the other perspectives that are arriving in the room and some of the other energy and how we can work with it. And I think this comes down to fear. It comes down to a fear that we might not all see it the same way. And then comes the conversation about diversity and equity. But is it? Is it really, when we can't make room for the energy that is arriving, even if the energy doesn't match our preconceived notions? So, how can this work for you as a practitioner? Well, simple question between sessions. Do you have enough time to reset? And I mean really reset, to check in with yourself on a 5-point check-in, physically, intellectually, mentally, emotionally, your social supports, your spiritual or core values, and your energy, and how you might be arriving given what you've just done in the work or what you brought to your day. For clients, if your practitioner doesn't ask you this or a similar kind of question like, okay, how are you arriving today? How are you coming today? So, what are you bringing today? Then ask them if you can take some time to just regroup in ways that are comfortable for you, because somatic grounding may not work for you. Breath work may not work for you. Talking and dumping, doing a mind dump, might work for you. Writing might work for you. There are any number of things that are just inherent to who you are as a human being that work for you. And our job is to come alongside as a witnessing, holding presence to make space for that so that you can find your own inner guide, your own inner wisdom, and maybe find the change that is meaningful for you. For students who show up in an art class, if your instructor hasn't set the environment for you to feel comfortable for the art making, if that's something you need, then see if you can maybe arrive a little early to set your own space, or see if you can find a way to talk about that and if it's affecting other students, and how you can talk with your art instructor, because it happens there too. I know, because I've done it. And sometimes the environment in the room, if it's a colossal mess and in disarray from the previous class, we need to reset the actual physical space so that however we're arriving has room to be in it. Things like that. So I share that also for those who go to meetings. There's lots of things we want to accomplish, and time seems even shorter than before we got into this whole change that's been brought by the pandemic. And yet, I feel that it's really important for us to, kind of get a feel for how we're coming to any given time together, and what we're bringing, how we're arriving, and whether there's room in the space for us to do that, and to maybe discover something new about how we do that going forward. And this is an ever-evolving thing. It's organic. It's going to grow. Maybe that's my bias. I don't know. But I kind of think that's probably true. So I offer this little video to you to do with it as you wish, to apply it as seems relevant to you. And I wish you all just a very, very good day. Take care until next time. Bye.